Live on YouTube. Let's go live on Instagram as well. I am live on Instagram. Instagram is going to inform my followers I'm live. That's very nice of you, Instagram. Awesome. Gonna wait for a little bit for people to arrive. I don't see any viewers. There's one viewer. I think it on Instagram. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Lenny. Lenny the IKEA shark on Instagram. Hello, welcome. There's a lot of IKEA sharks on Instagram. It's absolutely, if you love like the Blahai plushie that I have that I made a video about, you might not remember, I made a video about that. You can find so many of these cool sharks on Instagram. It's really funny. And they're all doing like cool stuff. Some are eating, cooking, going on holidays. It's really fun. Just trying to talk a little bit before people are joining. Lenny zegt, we're taking over the world. Absolutely. The world can always use more Blahai. Or Blowhai is how it actually is pronounced, I believe. I always say Blahai. It's more like Dutch pronunciation, I guess. Bethany is here on YouTube. Hello, Bethany. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Thank you all for joining again. If you've been here before, that is super awesome. If you've not been here before in the live streams, then welcome, welcome. I hope you will love it, or you will like it at least, and that you brought your questions. Let's just talk a little bit about what we're going to do. I'm going to talk for, I didn't check the time last time, but about 10 minutes, I think, about how to make your comic work actionable. How do you make it practical? And then it's time for your questions. If you have any comic questions, just general comic questions, problems, writing questions. If you've run into any obstacles, you have productivity questions about making comics, then definitely put them in the chat. If you actually want to chat face-to-face with me, you can do that as well on Instagram. So go on over to Instagram to my account, which is instagram.com/pencilsandstories. And I can actually invite you into the live stream, and we can actually have a chat if you think that it would be beneficial for you to have a little bit back and forth. Sometimes if you, for example, have a very specific story problem, that might actually be beneficial. So know that that is a possibility. Let's see. Welcome, welcome, people on Instagram, people on YouTube. Let's just start, shall we? Because today we're talking about how to actually practically plan your comic work into your schedule, into your day-to-day comic making life. And that can be hard because we've talked about setting goals. Setting goals is very nice. You can make them very big. Like say, I'm going to make an entire comic, but that's like a huge goal. And I always advise, like, set your goals, set your bigger milestones that you want to hit. But then in the day-to-day comic making adventure, don't focus too much on the big goal because that's super overwhelming. You're very specifically for planning out, breaking down and planning out what you're going to actually do, what you're going to work towards maybe in a month, but then you make them smaller and smaller until you get to something that you can do on a daily basis. But how do you go about that? The framework that worked really well for me was after I read the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's a very well-known productivity book. I've read it years ago, and that book is super technical. It goes into a lot of detail, and it splits out like completely managing your life. It's a little rigid sometimes. I just took a lot of stuff from all kinds of productivity systems and books and everything for myself to come up with my own productivity system. But what I do use heavily is the next action thing. And a next action is a very actionable next step that will get you closer to an outcome. And an outcome can be a smaller outcome, like finishing a comic page, or it can be a very large outcome, which is finishing a comic. The book goes into detail about, those larger projects as well. But for today, the next action is what I want to focus on. And it's a thing that you can actually do. So write a story, in my opinion, is not a next action. That's more like a bigger project. The act of writing itself is actionable, but writing a story is still so large and so nebulous that you would benefit from making that goal even smaller. And yeah, I would just say that the outcome is very often not your comic. It's a very large outcome of many outcomes. But I would say like an outcome in the sense of the next action that takes you closer to an outcome is more like finishing one comic page or finishing a part of your story or finishing a character design. So I would just say we talked about the big goal and then breaking down the big goal all the way down to like smaller milestones and making them even smaller still. Like you can say, I have the comic and then I have the chapters in the comic. And then inside the chapters, I have certain kind of sequences and scenes like story beats. You can even go a little bit smaller with like story beats. And then you have the scenes and then you have the comic pages. And then you can even go even smaller and have the comic panels or the various steps of the comic page. And that's kind of like how I think about these big nebulous things. I'm like, everything consists of little tiny components that make up the entire thing. The same goes for story. In story, you have characters, you have the world, kind of the backstory, you have the plot, you have the story structure itself. So your story beats and the way your story is flowing. And those are kind of individual things that you can focus on when you're just thinking about story, for example. You have your message, also known the theme or the thematic statement or the core of your story, the thing that you want to say, basically, with your story. That's a thing as well. And you can really narrow all of these little things down. When you think about characters, you have an individual character, and then that character is going to need some motivation for doing things. They will need some kind of dream, some kind of wish that they're trying to fulfill. So that's a little tiny thing that you can think about. So in next actions, for example, if you are at the point where you're writing your story, you can just start with brainstorming, for example, brainstorming a list of things that you need to think about for your new story or things that you've already thought about. And just brainstorm the list, then edit that list, add some more things. And then you can just set a next action for today of like for 10 minutes, figure out what the character's reason is for wanting to go to a certain place, for example, something very specific to your story. And those are more like the actions that I would put on my planner, not like sit down and write for 10 minutes. Because what does that mean? Your brain still doesn't know what to do. And in my experience, when my brain doesn't exactly know what to do, you kind of have a hurdle to overcome before you even start. And that's when you start resisting doing the work. So I would always advise you to put something the day before is usually when I do it. I make like a little action list of what I'm going to do in the day and just write down very specifically what you're going to do tomorrow. That really works really works well for me. Say you're doing character design. Character design is one of those nebulous things as well, because sometimes you kind of need to find the characters, always what I call it. Like you have kind of an image in your head of what your character, what you want your character to be, and you need to just throw things at the paper and then combine those things. And, oh, I really like that element of it, but then I need to work on, I don't know, the nose or kind of the hairstyle. So even for something like character design, that's something you can do, like find some more reference for character's eye shape. I don't know. Find some more information about how people wore their clothing in X time period. And then say things like, I'm almost there, but I need to find the right facial hair, so just write down like for 50 minutes, just sketch 50 well, 15 minutes is maybe a little bit, just put down on your action list 50 different facial hairstyles, like sketch them out. Those can be very actionable things because you actually know what to do. It's like, okay, I just need to focus on facial hair today, and I'm going to draw 50 things, even though after 30, my brain is kind of out of ideas. That's when you maybe start getting some new ideas and you actually come up with something creative. So you just set that 50 number for yourself. And then just do that for the day. So instead of like work on my character design, which feels like an action, right? It feels like an action you would put on your to-do list. Actually write down what in the character design is it that you need to work on. And for comic pages, it gets a little bit easier, in my opinion, because you can just say thumbnail the next 3 pages, or sketch out certain parts of the page. If you have the time, sketch out the entire page. But then what I also wanted to talk about is that you can have bad days or really busy days where it gets hard to, some next actions will still feel too big, or you cannot finish them in the day. Ideally, you want to put something on your to-do list that you can actually finish on the day. If you're fine with having the next action on your to-do list for a week, that's also fine. But at least make it an action that you exactly know what to do every single day, that you're going to sit down and work on it. Like the 50 facial hair sketches might actually not be done in a day, but they might be done in a few days. So that's totally fine, as long as you still have something on your to-do list that you know what exactly you're going to do. And then for comic pages, if you have a really bad day and you're like, a whole comic page is so overwhelming, like drawing a whole comic page, just draw 2 panels. You can even, go small like that. For me, it really depends on my mood. And some days I make bigger next actions, or I have like a next action list for the entire week that I want to get done. And then on some days, I just want to have something super clear and super simple. So I just purely write down what I need to do that day, and then I make it as small as I think that I can handle that day. So that can be like sketch out 1 panel or ink that 1 panel. Find reference. If you have a really bad day, like find some reference for that next page. That's going to be tough. Look at some inspirational imagery from other artists, that kind of stuff. So it's fine to, in my opinion, to be a little flexible as well with what kind of next actions you're going to put on your next action list. Yep, and then very important again, I've talked about this before, but plan your comic work into your schedule is something I would say. Actually, you can time block it even, like I'm going to work on my comic from this time to this time. I usually just plan it in either the morning or the afternoon, and then whenever I get to it, I get to it. But planning it in your planner is actually, it increases your chances of being able to actually do the comic work, because you're not waiting for an opening in your schedule, which is how it works for a lot of people who do their comic as a hobby or on the side. You're waiting kind of for some time. And then when you have the time, you're like, oh, now I have to make my comic. And then it's like this whole thing of having to start up the whole thing. But if you actually plan the comic work in your schedule, it's coming, you can already like put some tools out and find some reference before you start working. And it's just super clear, like, okay, today I'm going to work on my comic and I'm going to work at it in the evening, for example. And in my opinion, this is how you slowly chip away at a comic, and how the small steps and all the small next actions will eventually lead to those milestones, lead to those bigger milestones, chapters, books, and eventually your comic will be finished. And it's super interesting that when you're at the start of your comic, I distinctly remember being at the start of it all and just being like, this is such a large project. But then if you just keep chipping away at it, like with daily actions, eventually after a year, you will have done a lot of work. And I took a year, and I had a website, I had a buffer of comic pages, and I shared about it on social media. So there were a lot of people coming on launch day. And that was after a year of me working and chipping away at the comic. So it can eventually also just go really fast because the small steps, they all add up, and eventually you will have made a comic, or at least part of your comic if you have a very large one. So that is the stuff about next actions that's super powerful. Again, make them super clear. Actually define what you're going to do. Don't put things like make a page, write my story, do a character design. Like those are really, really big things. Like if you're working a big animation studio, a character design, if you're like a lead character designer, it will just take you weeks or months to come up with a single character design that's gonna drive the whole movie. You know, that's going to take a lot of time. So it would just do little actions every day, and eventually it will end up with a character design. And the same goes for an entire comic. I hope that made sense, everyone. Thank you all for watching. If you tuned in while I was talking, thank you and welcome. We are talking about next actions today. If you have any questions about next actions specifically, or let's just say you're working on a comic right now and you're not quite sure what next action to put on your list, put it in the chat and maybe we can come up with a next action together that you can do tomorrow or today. For some of you, it's still early. So yeah, put that in the chat if that's something that you struggle with. Have any other questions, comic questions, story questions, productivity questions, tool questions? If you have any questions whatsoever, put them in the chat on Instagram. You can actually ask me to invite you. I guess that's how it works, into the live stream so we can talk face to face. So if that's something you want to do on Instagram, then go right ahead. Meanwhile, while you're thinking about questions, I'm just going to pitch my new Skillshare class for the last time, because I have created my first Skillshare class. It's about productivity. It's about everything that we talked about this week, about the larger goals and how to break them down from large goals to one comic goal, milestones, and then the next actions, scheduling it in, how to deal with procrastination, distractions, how to make your comic work as fun as possible, and how to celebrate your wins. It's all in there. It's a class of 35 minutes. If you go to the link in the description, you can actually get a month free of Skillshare if you have not gone through any trial period on Skillshare yet. And yeah, you can try out Skillshare, see if you like it. It has tons of classes, not just about making comics, though there are quite a few comic classes on there. There's also classes about productivity, about self-care, but literally every single art form that you can imagine. How to work with social media as an artist, how to find your art style, all of that stuff. So try out Skillshare if you like that idea, and if you use my link and you eventually sign up for Skillshare, full disclosure, I will get a little commission for that. And of course, Skillshare pays me for minutes watched on my new class, which is amazing. I see we have a question on YouTube. Mayoko Toby. I like your username. Do you have a reference building cap? I feel like I can search for reference for so long and not actually getting to use it. Shake my head. Yeah. The searching for reference is like, it's a rabbit hole too, right? Because it's like, oh, this is cool and this is also cool and I love that too, and maybe I want to use that in my comic. And yes, I think everybody recognizes this. I would say, if that is something that you easily fall into, just set a time frame for yourself. Say like, I'm going to search for reference for a day. If it's a main character, for example, that you're finding reference for, you might take a few days to kind of really develop multiple different angles for kinds of looks that you want to use. But then start drawing as soon as possible. And when you're drawing, you will figure out if you need more reference or not. And then you go find some reference again. So be flexible with it. But if that's the thing that you struggle with, I would just set a time limit of just a few hours, depending on what it is. Like for some things, I don't do extensive reference searching, because for a comic, you can be there forever searching for reference. So yeah, I would set a cap, and then for some things don't necessarily like, you just need to figure out how something looks, for example, and then you can put your own creativity on there when you're drawing it into comic backgrounds or whatever. Yeah, but I hope that's helpful. But there's not specifically a cap of like, I always search for reference for a day or something. Yeah, it depends on the scope of what you're trying to design. Thank you, no problem. Glad it was helpful. Guys, if I'm answering something is just not clear, just let me know. I'm totally fine with that. We'll try to explain it again, but if it's clear, then awesome. I see Naru, Rosuka, I think. Sorry if I mispronounce your username. How do you balance illness/injury with art and balance your expectations of yourself? I recall you talking about some about this in a video where you were having issues. Just curious, no pressure. Oh, no problem at all to talk about it. It's something that I really want to talk about because the more I talk about it, the more I hear about other artists having similar issues, and it is tough. It really is tough. Last year, I had a thyroid issue, and I had a really, really bad reaction to medication. I had brain fog. I had months where I could not use my hands, literally not, because I had a really bad reaction that caused my joints to swell up. And it happened in both my wrists at the same time at one point. And then they said like it can go away after a few days or weeks. So just hang in there a little bit. And after a few days, it would move from one place in my hand to another place. So I think all my fingers had it at one point. But there was like an evening where I could not even open the tap or even like with a lot of trouble, I could open my door. That's how much my wrists were hurting. And it took a really long time for them to actually to have my strength back in my hands and to actually be able to do something without pain. But for a few months, I couldn't write, I couldn't draw, and my brain got really foggy at one point. I still don't know if that's from medication as well, or it was because of the thyroid issue, because it wasn't that severe. But maybe my body was like, oh my goodness, we're going insane. With that, I still don't know, but I had like months of where I had a really hard time just comprehending things. I couldn't really read very well. Like I had to move through all kinds of muck in order to, in your brain, in order to actually be clear-headed and have a normal conversation. I would just mid-conversation, I would forget what I was talking about. It was really strange. And actually really scary as well. So that was a little bit of backstory. I'm not talk about it much further, but in that situation, it was just impossible. It was impossible to create anything. And if you're ill, if you're chronically ill, you will probably have days where you're not able to create, or when you're able to do very, very small things. I eventually got to a point where, because perks of being freelance, I have to keep working because I got some I have like an insurance for not being able to work. I don't know what the English word is for that, but that wasn't enough money for me to get by, so I still had to work, and I had like a small side job because of all the COVID stuff. It was like a whole thing, and I had 2 hours daily that I could work, and then it was like I was done for that day. And then eventually I got to a point where I could work for the 2 hours and then have like 20 minutes every day of me being able to do something. And that all went to my course, because I just did a Kickstarter for my large comic course that I have on my website, How to Start a Comic. And I really wanted to get that course into people's hands, basically, as soon as possible, because these people, I paid for it. So I chose to put my YouTube channel on hold. I chose, well, my comic was already on hold. Did not post much to social media. And I just picked one thing. And that's what I did for the majority of last year, is just work on the course. Eventually the course was done. So that was good. So I think one of the tips that I have is like, really figure out your priorities. If you have an illness or an injury, there's often not much that you can do. Like you see all these people online and it's super frustrating because you feel like they all have 5 projects at the same time and they can draw and they can write and they can do all the things. And you come to a point where you have to accept where you can't. At least for me, it was temporary, luckily. But I really did not know how long it was going to take. And I've been feeling less brain foggy since November last year, and I got it in like April or something. And then I've been feeling better energy-wise since March of this year, even. So almost a year of like having little to no energy at all. So acceptance, accept. Be really, really kind to yourself. Celebrate every single thing that you can do on the day. Be really, really happy. I made 3 drawings last year in total. And I was like, well, at least I did 3 drawings, But it's still, in the back of your brain, you're like, I wish I could have done everything. Like, I was super frustrated with my YouTube channel, especially because 2020, I posted a video every single week and it went really well. And I was growing, my YouTube channel was growing and everything. And just last year, it all stagnated. And it was so frustrated because I was like, 2020, I was like, I'm going to put everything into YouTube and I'm going to build my business. And then it was like to screeching halt. So be so kind to yourself. Be so kind to yourself. Celebrate what you can do. Pat yourself on the back because you have a full-time job next to art, and your full-time job is your health. Basically, for some people, it's a full-time job. You need to do exercises to get better after injury. You have to take, the rest and the self-care, but then you probably also want to see your friends, and you're talking maybe to doctors, you're going to appointments, it can be a lot. And especially if you don't have any energy, everything is so draining. So be kind, pick your priorities, and then maybe just focus on one thing. And try to, if it's in your power, try to get better. Of course, work on that as well. Give that priority because obviously that's a very big priority. But then if you have to choose between multiple things, sometimes you just have to choose. And then make use of the very, very small pockets of time where you have energy and when you have maybe a little bit less pain. If you can create, just go for it. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's the only advice I can give you is to be really patient with yourself and pick a priority, focus on that. Yeah, I made a video, I can't remember the title, but it is one of my latest videos, I think. That might be helpful to watch on my YouTube channel about, is it called How to Create When You're Ill? I don't know, and I don't dare to look because I will opening up more tabs. Yeah, but I would recommend just go on my YouTube channel and look at that. There's also an article. There's a comic artist called Jessica Abel, and she has an article on her website. I think if you go to her website, I'm using my phone as well, so I cannot look it up. I cannot remember the artist. She did an interview with an artist who has a chronic illness and who also has a lot of trouble with creating sometimes. And she has a really great article. So I would just go to Jessica Abel's website, or maybe just Google Jessica Abel chronically ill artist, or something like that. I think you will find it. But that's a good article to read as well. And I think there's some of the same stuff in there. Yeah. But I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you're probably dealing with something similar right now. I'm so sorry to hear that because I know how frustrating it is. So glad you're feeling better. Or thank you. That's good advice. The patience and acceptance is definitely hard. Oh, yes. Yes, for sure. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but you're worth it. Everything you can do and everything you can create is a super win. Like for you, it's even more a win than people who don't struggle with illness or injury. Like, celebrate that as well. And if it helps to talk about it or something, maybe, I don't know if you are doing any social media or something, but maybe a little vlog about it sometimes. But then you kind of you kind of get to be known sometimes for being the artist, the artist that talks about that. But I've known some artists who are actually super open about it. Like I remember Lois van Baarle, who is very well-known illustrator. She actually had repetitive strain injury at one point, or she injured her hands and wrists and couldn't paint anymore for months. And she was very open about it as well. I think that more and more artists are being open about it, especially because everybody seems to be so productive, on social media. But if it helps you, to also maybe for your followers, so they know like why are things sometimes going slowly. Maybe that helps you, but of course it's super private as well. So you absolutely have the right to share or not share about your life, whatever you want. Like I'm still struggling with my mental health, and I'm having a hard time being open about that on social media. It's easier for me to talk about the physical stuff. But that's something that's still holding me back right now, at this moment. And that's really hard to talk about. And that's also, I don't know, feels more private. Yeah, but there's a lot of artists that are very open about certain things online, and it can help others as well. But if you don't want to, absolutely no pressure. Absolutely no pressure. I do talk about it some, but probably not enough. I'm always afraid it will be difficult for others to understand. Yeah, mental health is equally always a struggle. Oh, I'm so sorry. So 100% understand. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's like, it's tough. It's really tough. And it is hard for people to understand, especially the mental health stuff, I feel like. But also like things like I'm tired, or you have pain. Oh, but you don't look in pain. You don't look too tired, Yeah, that's it's hard. And some people probably will not understand. But I found usually that I've not had any weird comments yet. I hope you didn't get them either. But yeah, people can be really understanding, and those that are not, it's like, well, good for you for not having that experience, I guess. But yeah, especially if you have invisible illness, yeah, it's super tough. I think that's like a common thing amongst people with illnesses of any kind. It's hard. Yeah. But I hope it helped any small steps, very small steps, like your next actions that I just talked about. I don't know if you've been here long, but I just talked about next actions for a bit. If you haven't heard that, you can rewatch the live stream on YouTube later. But your next actions, the things that you put on your to-do list, make them super small. Like where some people can make a comic page in a day, you can make a few comic panels in a day. That's fine, or do a little bit of drawing for 10 or 15 minutes. Like if 10 minutes a day is something you can do, that is still 70 minutes. That's more than an hour in a week. And then maybe if you're working on a comic, I'm not sure what your art project is, but, for example, if you're working on a comic, then you can kind of adjust the style a little bit so that it's easier to draw and faster for you to draw, so that 1 hour every week will still eventually just you'll still be able to make pages. Like you have pages with a maximum of 6 panels, for example, and then have a really simple art style, maybe not go super all out with color. And, you can still make something small, like a short comic, for example. Find projects that fit what you can do in the season of your life. Webtoon, long story because I don't know how to do short story. Yeah, working on making a simpler style, like you said, to make more of my time. Yeah, and the simpler style is sometimes harder to do. I feel like simplifying is a skill. That's an artist's skill. But yeah, I think that's a good thing to focus on. Again, look really appealing as well. Yeah, awesome. Good for you making a webtoon. That's awesome. Yeah, and I do long stories as well. Yep, multiple years. Let's see. On YouTube. Well, thanks, Mayo Toby. Sympathies. Yeah, I'm doing better now. I'm definitely doing better. Mental health thing is I hope the last hurdle. I hope the last hurdle, but I'm working on it. Naphtali. Hi, I was wondering how you can promote your comic with your YouTube channel. I'm not on Instagram due to safety reasons. I'm in my 20s, 24 years old, due to being a person with special needs. How can you promote your comic with your YouTube channel? I've seen multiple things. Like a lot of people will do behind the scenes things, or they stream. Like I'm streaming now on YouTube as well. They stream their comic process. You can cut those up if you want to just record. You can stream, or you can pre-record you working on your comic, and then cutting it up a little bit, edit it a little bit, and put it on YouTube. Some people just read. They show their comic and read their comic, or have other people do voices for it. You can also use your YouTube channel, I guess, to network with other comic artists. So maybe review the comics that you've read, and make some connections with other artists that way. That can be really fun as well. And YouTube Shorts are not doing that well right now, but those are kind of like Instagram Reels or TikTok videos. And what I see people do with really short video is that they would actually find like fun music or whatever, and they make funny skits about comic panels. They will literally just film comic panels and maybe talk a little bit about the characters, or make jokes about their characters, of what they're doing, or you would have to look at some inspiration actually on TikTok and Instagram for that. But for YouTube, it will probably quickly turn into YouTube Shorts, and I'm not sure how they're performing right now. I hear mixed things about them, so I'm not sure if that is the best thing to do for YouTube. Yeah, those are kind of the things that I can think of. Maybe some background of your comic, like some of the inspirations, the background, culture. Yeah, I would probably make videos about that. And don't forget that you need to promote the heck out of your YouTube videos. So I'm not sure if you're on any other social media channels, like maybe Twitter, or you're on LinkedIn. Can work too. A lot of people actually share artwork on LinkedIn, or maybe there's some art platforms like ArtStation, or I'm not sure if you can promote YouTube videos there, but some people go on Reddit. Yeah, and then promote your videos. The more you promote your videos, the more traffic it gets in the first 24 hours, the better it performs in the YouTube algorithm. And definitely look at other comic artists on YouTube. There's a lot of webcomic artists. Webtoon itself has a YouTube channel as well, so kind of see what they're doing to get ideas from other people as well, and what's working and what's performing well. Really look at if you find a video, for example, that has a lot of views and way more views than subscribers, for example, you know that those kinds of videos are videos that perform well. So I would just do some YouTube research as well, see what other people are doing, what is performing. well, what videos get a lot of engagement, a lot of comments. And see how they put their videos together, how they edit their videos. I kind of emulate, it's like, it's the same as with art. Basically, you look at what other people are doing and how they solve problems, and then you do the same. You kind of emulate, like, don't copy the video, but you can kind of copy the editing style, for example, and see how that works for you. Or you can see how they structure their titles and thumbnails, because that's super important on YouTube. Like, have an eye-catching thumbnail, and in my experience, something with emotion, something that tells a story and that makes you curious, that you want to click. Because first you need to get them to click before you get them to watch. You have to get them to click. So do a lot of research, I'd say, on YouTube as well. Bethany asks, I'm in the same boat right now, being 7 months pregnant. Yeah, creating has been a huge struggle this year. Oh yeah, totally understandable. Totally understandable. Not everybody has like a super smooth pregnancy. First of all, some people get super tired, or they have like all kinds of physical issues. And then the whole mindset shift, well, we're going to be parents. You have to work on, the baby stuff, preparing nursery. You have to arrange things. You have to go to what's the English word? You need to get checkups. So yeah, that's that's tough stuff. Small pockets of time. Tiny next actions on your list. Tiny next actions. Tiny steps. You will still get some stuff done. Might not be as much as last year, but you can still get there with 10 minutes a day. There's this book that is really great. It's a super short read. I cannot remember the author. Make It Happen in 10 Minutes a Day. I think the cover is like a blue sky with a rescuing buoy flying through the air. I think that's what it is. But it is a story about a new mother. I don't know if she was a single mother too, but she was home alone with her baby at least a lot of the time. And she talks about, really, because she just moved to the new house and she really wanted to take care of the garden because it was just really messy. And she was like, how am I going to do that with a newborn baby? And then, your laundry just explodes with a newborn. And then you have to, go arrange all this stuff. And the baby, then they sleep and then they wake up again. And, it was tough. And she came up with that concept of, I can always find 10 minutes somewhere on my day. I can find 10 minutes and I'm going to do some work in the garden. And then I'm going to, after the 10 minutes, if I still have a little bit of time, I can go on, but I'm also allowed to stop on days where it's hard or really busy. 10 minutes, and that's all I did for today. And that hit my goal. And it's a super, super small goal, but I can still feel good about having done something, even though it's not like a lot. And she said, eventually the garden was done in just 10 minutes a day. And that book was really, really helpful to me. So don't underestimate the 10 minutes. Don't underestimate the 10 minutes of focused work. Hi, Martinez. Happy Friday to you as well. Lucid Berry Pro. Share your pages to Pinterest, your comic pages. Yeah, you could do that. I don't think Pinterest is the best place to read comics, so I wouldn't necessarily put all of my pages on Pinterest. I'm trying to think if I've been on Pinterest lately and if they have like a new navigation kind of a thing, but I don't think so. But yeah, definitely you can just put some artwork or comic pages on Pinterest so people click through to your comic. You want to basically drive them to either your website or your webtoon or wherever your first place, your first choice of posting is, if you post on multiple places. Yeah, and I think Pinterest also has like a video thing right now, so you could even make like a trailer for your comic and then send people. I'm not sure if you can actually send people from a video pin to a website. I think I read somewhere that that's not a thing because they kind of want to keep you on Pinterest. So you kind of have to see. But if you just have a really easy URL, you could technically even get a domain name for your comic and then have it link through, like a redirect to Webtoon, for example, because Webtoon URLs are weird. But you can also just put the title or your URL in videos so people can at least type it in if they're interested. Muchness, or Saturday, depending. Not Saturday yet, but it might be Saturday. And some people more east from me. I see people drawing their OCs, original characters, interacting with a clip, and those are kind of fun. Yes. Yeah. The creator, I think her artist name is Instant Miso. She's created 3 webcomics now on Webtoon. She does that really, really well. She just finds some fun sounds on Instagram and TikTok, and she just comments on her characters or something, and it's really, really fun. Yeah. And she says, "Thank you. I'm not on Twitter due to toxicity, and YouTube is mostly a platform that I use the most." Yeah. Yeah. If you're YouTube only, titles and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails. When people find your video, you want to have them click. And in the titles, use keywords. So if you have a complicated title, for example, my comic is called Recollection City, which is not really a searchable thing. People are not searching for that. So in my case, I always use keywords of like Victorian or steampunk or adventure, quests, story, kind of those kinds of keywords. Make them sound natural as well and appealing so people get curious. But in my case, I don't know. I don't have that kind of YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is more educational because I also have that teaches you to make comics. But if I would have a YouTube channel specifically dedicated to my comic, I would try to appeal to that audience that likes adventure stories, long epic stories, that really like the Victorian age. So I would maybe make titles like that, like Victorian adventure story gone wrong or something. I don't know. Something that sparks an emotion, tells a story, and makes people curious to click of what's gone wrong, There's so many channels about building a good YouTube channel. Both are educational and for people who either vlog or who have educational content, but especially the vlogs, like those are telling stories basically as well. That's what a vlog is. So you could look into videos like that. A very good channel is Film Booth, which I would recommend to check out because they are very focused on how do you grow on YouTube. Don't expect much growth after you've made like over 100 videos. It takes a while. I have 80 videos on my channel, I think. I didn't really check lately. I think I'm close to 100 videos. And yeah, I didn't make many videos last year, so probably close to 100 videos, and then I got like 1,000 subscribers eventually, but it really took a while for it to grow, and then it's stuck on 600 for the longest time, I think. So just keep going. It's more about quantity than about quality, and get better at making videos anyway eventually, which, the better your videos get, the more people are inclined to keep watching, which improves your retention rate, your watch time, and all of that stuff. Muchness. I'm really interested in today's topic of this live stream. Did you miss the start? Definitely, if you are, then definitely, if you missed the beginning where I talked about it, definitely rewatch the live stream. It's live on YouTube, or it's posted on YouTube, so you can rewatch it there. Yeah. If you have any questions about actions and goals, not goals, but to-dos, creating good to-dos, put them in the chat. Naro on Instagram says, how's your comic going? I'm still getting back into being creative. What I'm doing right now is, because the comic was on hiatus for so long, I actually want to rework some things in the story that I didn't feel were really working. And since I just finished chapter 1, I'm like, if I'm going to make any changes, I better do it soon. So I'm in the writing process again. And again, I'm trying to do the 10 minutes a day to not give myself too much pressure. So yeah, try to just, for 10 minutes a day, try to brainstorm new ideas, fix some certain plot holes, work out some character motivations and things that happened in the past. I've changed some things that happened to the characters in the past. Yeah, basically rework my entire second half of the second act. So there's been a lot of changes, but that's how my comic is going, writing. And eventually I want to do a lot more drawing, but drawing is still a little overwhelming to me. It's like the whole concept of drawing is still, yeah, I know I can get back into it again, but also because I'm doing a lot of therapy right now and I have to do practices for that as well. My brain space is somewhere else entirely right now. And on some days I'm just super panicky. So it's very hard to be creative at this time. And it's mostly to do with my mental health and lack of energy still in some days. So yeah, but I will get there. I know I will. Like, I've been through our huge art block before, so I know I can get out of it and I know how to do it, which is the tiny actions and making it a habit again, keeping it really small for yourself at first, going about it structurally, not just sitting in front of a blank page and I have to draw something, but actually just thinking about what you're going to draw, using reference, good thumbnails, composition, all that stuff. So I know how to get out of it. Is doing it. That's still a little hard, but yeah, I'm working on a vlog about it, but I've never vlogged before. It feels a little weird just sitting in front of the camera going, well, I've done this and that today. And then I'm like, how am I even going to make this an interesting video? So I'm still kind of struggling with that. I'm looking into vlogging right now. Like, how do you actually do that and make that interesting? And yeah, I eventually want to put out a video on YouTube about that process of getting back into art again. But it might be a while before I have that video ready. Totally understandable. I believe in you. Oh, thank you so much. I believe in you too. Thank you for asking the question, by the way, about the illness and stuff. That takes guts to talk about that in public. I can't comprehend vlogging either. It's funny. I have a friend who just, she went through something, and then she was like, I was walking in nature and I suddenly had the urge to vlog what I was going through. And then she recorded this supernatural vlog that was super uplifting and hopeful. And I was like, I think you have a talent for vlogging. And she was like, should I share it? I'm so scared. She's like, that's why I'm asking you. I'm like, girl, share the heck out of it. Because it's really good. She was like, it's probably a one-time thing, but you never know. Maybe you're a natural too. Oh, people are chatting in YouTube. Let's see. I think if you wanted, this muchiness again, I think if you wanted to grow online as an artist, using the platforms you can actually use and enjoy is a good way to not have those dead up accounts. So many artists have. Yeah, I'm everywhere. And I keep alternating where I want to be. trying to, ideally you want to like just reuse content, but then reusing the content and creating it for other platforms as well also costs time. But you could make a YouTube video, and ideally you can use it in like 10 different ways on all kinds of platforms, but that just takes time. Yeah. Yeah, I did a workshop with Lois van Baarle, Lois, at one point about social media, and she really recommended to me, because she did a little review of everybody who was there, of their social media, and she was like, "You're everywhere. Maybe you should pick something and commit to those things." I was like, "You're probably right." And then she's like, "Pick one." What do you mean one? I was like, "Yeah, I could pick my YouTube, but I have to promote it everywhere." And she's like, maybe just make one thing your main thing and then move on to the next thing. Like for her, it's Instagram at this moment, very, very much. But I think she posts on TikTok as well. I'm not sure if she's consistent on it, but I've heard it said to just start with one. If you've built that one, it's easier to build the other stuff too, because you can kind of redirect people. Oh, I'm also on this platform. So that becomes easier. Use it very pro. I haven't tried it myself, but it looks like you can put links in the Pinterest posts. Lots of pins give you the option to visit the webpage the image originated from. Yeah, that's for text pins and image pins. But I'm not sure if that can be done for video pins. There's some back and forth about the social media. Watching this. I missed the start of your stream. Oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I'll catch it on the VODs. That's a Twitch thing, isn't it? A VOD. It's so funny. Twitch is another thing that I have. Like, what I usually do is just claim my username. So when I eventually want to use it, I can. So I'm on Twitch as well. I'm on Twitch. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook page, multiple Facebook pages, YouTube. Do I have anything else? Pinterest, DeviantArt, that's old. Yeah. But I'm active on mostly Twitter and Instagram right now, and then of course YouTube. The rest is basically just copy paste it to the other platforms, and then don't be consistent on there at all. Definitely, yeah, those keywords that you post would be good, I think. Yeah, you can actually. I use an extension. It costs a little bit of money, but it works for a really long time if you put in a little bit. Like it was $10, I think, and then you get like 10 Google searches, and it actually shows you how many people searched on that term. It's a plugin that I use. It's called Keywords Everywhere, and you can kind of type those things in and see if people are searching on it a lot in a month. It would actually give you numbers for those things. For your comic, because I remember you said it also had some sci-fi, and that's of course a very sci-fi supernatural stuff. That's a very big audience of people who consume media. So I would definitely go hard on that as well. If you can get even like some subgenre of sci-fi that your comic falls into, and then combine it with those things that are more about culture, because you don't know if anybody or everybody who is searching for those keywords would actually also be interested in reading comics. So I would sprinkle them in with your genre as well. Yeah. Muchness is therapy. It's great. It is great. It's also really hard, but it's also really great. My vlog sounds fun. Yeah, it sounds fun. Just don't know how to do it yet. But I will figure it out. I always do. You can learn anything and everything nowadays. Speaking of learning, there's also a ton of that stuff on Skillshare, like very accessible, shorter classes to do. I also did a lot of larger courses on things. Like, for example, I've done a large course on Kickstarter. I've done a large course on YouTube, and those actually gave me some great results as well. Funded Kickstarter. YouTube channel that's growing. I did courses on art, of course, like a comic composition course that was super, super helpful. That really got me unstuck and helped me connect with a lot of other artists. Yeah, I love courses. And then Skillshare is more like the class, the shorter classes. I personally want to do more like, oh, sorry, I have to remove some spam comments from YouTube. Ugh, they're even getting into live streams now. It's so annoying. I don't want those in my chat. Reporting to YouTube. Just said crap. And there's a third one. Sorry, guys. My computer is a little slow. Report. Okay, they're gone. Does it still help us? That's not the kind of help I want, sorry. Lucy Berry has been on DeviantArt since 2010. Yeah, wow. Wow. How old is DeviantArt? It wasn't that old back then yet. I've been there since 2006, though. DeviantArt is old for a website. I think it's even older than YouTube. Yeah, Lois has great insights on these things. Yeah. I've listened to some of her talks about social media. I'm sure there's some of it floating around here on YouTube. Oh, yeah, I think so too. She did some for Lightbox last year as well. And I think most of the Lightbox content was uploaded to YouTube because it was like open to everybody because of the pandemic. So, yeah, it must be. Lemur says you could just talk about things like you do right now and put it into the vlog while working on the comic. It's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like sometimes I feel like the talking head videos are sometimes a little boring. I would love to do more art in it, put more art in it. Yeah. I've been just recording a little log sometimes of when I would have worked. I'll just switch on my phone and then talk a little bit about what I did and what went through my head. But that's so boring, though. Still have to find a way to make it more interesting, I believe. For some reason, it's easier on a live stream. I don't know. Maybe also because I'm just, I'm answering a question. So Naru says I was on DeviantArt in freshman year of high school, so at least as old as 2004, I think. Cool. Are there any questions? Let's see. I missed some stuff on Instagram. Oh, Michaela's back. The fact that you're still doing so much stuff while having art block is really motivational. Yeah. It's funny. I think we can all kind of see what we could be doing. And so it feels not like a lot. Like this week has been a little more because I did all the live streams. So I also did more promotion for the live streams, promotion for the Skillshare class, and then I uploaded the trailer to the class on YouTube. So I did a little more this week, and also there was like all kinds of discussion on Twitter going on that I joined into as well. But yeah, I can imagine to the outside. That's also a good lesson. Like on the outside, sometimes it looks like people are super productive, but I'm not working much in a day on art at all, guys. Actually, I don't. I would love to do so much more. And I feel like I'm getting to the point where I can. It's just not happening yet completely. Natalie on YouTube. It takes place in the year 2034. I don't know what subgenre that would fall into. Yeah, there's websites that you can actually look for genres on. If you just Google story genres, you can get websites with like entire lists. Lucid is very active on DeviantArt. That's awesome. DeviantArt changed so much, though. I feel like it's a very specific kind of art on there that does really well. I got a daily deviation, which is kind of like a you have different mod teams for different kind of art genres on DeviantArt, and they would pick a daily like feature to put on a website. And before, you would actually be on the main website, like so many people would see it. And I got a daily deviation for the first comic page that I did for my previous comic that went nowhere. That's like shelved right now. And it got so much traffic. And then after years and years, I went back to DeviantArt and I actually submitted my first page of Recollection City for daily deviation, just myself. The other one was sent by somebody else, I think, to a mod. And they actually picked it. So it was daily deviation for comic art again. And it just, there was a very specific page that you needed to navigate to see the daily deviations of the day. It got like absolutely no traffic at all. I was like, I have a daily deviation and it's like crickets. I posted my comic on there. Actually, there's a few groups that will just give you a space in the group to post your comic pages so people can read it right there. I did that. So you could do that as well on DeviantArt. But for me, it's been super dead. Also, the people I followed, everybody's gone. But if you still have a lot of people to, that you still interact with there and you get a lot of traffic there, that's awesome. So neat. Also, LOL. Norris says, honestly, you could just ramble through a vlog. That's so sweet. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I will eventually post it. I just don't know how yet. Yeah. I want to get more into actual storytelling in my videos in general, even though it's educational content. Like I want to tell a story with a clear message in it. So yeah, really want to focus on improving my YouTube videos as well. I still look okay on Instagram, but I'm starting to get super blown out on YouTube because the sun is starting to shine and it's shining exactly on my face. But if I close the curtain, it's probably going to be too dark. So I'm just going to leave it. Do you guys have any comic questions or story problems or productivity things you want answers to, you want to talk about? Let me know, because we've been going on for an hour again. It's so fun talking to all of you. Time goes super fast. Because says my DeviantArt should be an archaeological site because the art is so old. Same. I cleaned up mine actually because it was too cringe. It was too cringe. But I left some old art up because I always love looking at people's old art. I'm like, oh my goodness, you came from that place. There's hope for me, Now, says, where do you keep your schedule? Do you make an agenda or how do you keep track of your daily goals? Paper for me. I've tried multiple apps because it's just so convenient because you always have it on you and, you don't you don't forget your notebook or whatever. And you just have it on you on your phone, but it just doesn't work for me for some reason. I can do a lot of things online. I write or online on digital devices. I work a lot on digital devices, but for some reason, when it comes to planning, tracking, all of that stuff, I just want to do it on paper. So I have a paper bullet journal. I do have I have a digital app though for appointments. So I know what my appointments are. Those I schedule digitally. And then for the day, I will schedule I will just make a little bullet point list of the actions that I want to do that day. I usually have a larger list of all of the actions that I eventually want to get done. And then sometimes I'm more in a mood. Sorry, guys, I have moods sometimes and I switch things up. What I did for a really long time that was really helpful as well, and that I sometimes do as well, is for the longest time I had a paper planner. And on the left side of the planner was the week. And on the right side was just lines. What do you call that? It's just for notes. It was a space for notes. And what I did was left side, appointments, right side, what do I want to get done this week in terms of actions? And that was also really helpful because it's more flexible in a sense of if I have a lot of time in the day, I can actually just cross off as many as I can for that day, as many next actions as I can. And I kind of get a feel of like, okay, today I did this, but I also need to get this and this done today. So I kind of probably need to start that on Monday or Tuesday if I want to have that done by the end of the week. So that was also a really helpful, overview of my week, of my appointments and the things I wanted to get done that I needed to put in there. So those are kinds that I really like to use. I use the bullet journal heavily. Not official, like with every single productivity system. I don't do the official, I'm not very strict in following like one productivity system. My productivity system is like a blend of all kinds of stuff that worked for me. And it was a lot of experimenting and a lot of trying things out. And eventually you kind of get a feel for how you work best. So yeah, it's a combination of getting things done, parts of the bullet journal, like for example, the bullet journal system has like this thing where you have like all of your everything in your bullet journal, like all of your appointments and everything too. But that's sometimes not, it's a little rigid because things change a lot in my schedule. So then I have to cross things off. And that's why I have the digital app for my appointments. And then I work on paper because papers are flexible in terms of like day-to-day stuff. I hope that made sense. I do want to make YouTube videos about productivity more as well, and that I would probably do more like insight in how I actually exactly do like the whole productivity thing. Do you have any particular way you choose what you're doing on a particular day, or do you just feel it out the day off? No, I will have I try to keep my like the long list of next actions that I have that I pick from. I really make sure that those are only things that need to get done and that I want to get done. I don't put all of the stuff that I maybe sort of want to do, or the stuff where I'm like, that's important, but I can do that in a few months too. I keep that action list really neat of like, this is stuff that I really, really want to get done. And then sometimes things have deadlines. So administrative stuff, some things I just want to get out of the way first. So I do those things. And then there's the, having particular stuff that you want to do daily, like the 10 minutes of writing for my comic, 10 minutes of art improvement. And then there's always a new YouTube video coming up. There's always a new, ideally, there's always social media stuff that I need to do, email that I need to send out to my email lists. Shout out to my email list. If you want to be on there, you can go to pencilsandstories.com/extra. Usually I send out an email every week with some comic stuff or new videos that I post. So if you're not already on there, you can subscribe, and then you also get a free checklist of how to make comics from scratch. Oh, bye, Bethany. You're probably already away, but yeah, have a good weekend. Yeah, so sometimes if I'm more flexible, I can kind of feel it out, but usually, also when I still was making my comic, there was just stuff that needed to get done. If I wanted to work on my comic, then I had the next action of like, this is the next thing I need to do for my comic, and this is the next thing. And I would just follow that schedule. Natalie asked, how many short comics would you do before working on your larger comic? There's not really a good answer, I think, for everyone. Many people say to start small, but I have a hard time with this. I just never did anything longer than 1 or 2 pages, and then I immediately dived into the hundreds of pages long epic. Yeah, I would say, because it's a little dangerous, I think, to say like make a few short comics until you feel like you could manage a longer one, but that can kind of become an excuse of like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, because you don't, because you've never done it before. It will always be scary. So I would use the short comics specifically to figure out how you want to make comics, what kind of style you want to do, what fits you, to find out your way of working, to get comfortable with making comic pages, and to get kind of into a comic page making flow. And on the side, work on my story for the longer comic. And then eventually, when you're kind of more into like, oh, okay, now I know how to make a comic. And for me, that took about 20 pages of my long comic for me to feel like that, because every single new comic that you start will have a little period of that as well. But get a little comfortable and see if that's something that you truly want to do, and then just dive in to the longer one. I would not say like go do a year of short comics or whatever, because that's not what I did either. Eventually, if you just want to do a really long comic, do a really long comic. But do some soul searching for yourself if that's something that you actually want to do, because we talked about this before as well. Some people really need variation. So either you need to make sure that you have a lot of variation in your comic, so you switch scenes a lot, like you switch environments a lot, of your characters switch clothing and stuff, and you create that variation inside of your comic. Some people actually need to vary comic projects. So for some people, they would just always make comics that are a maximum of 100, 200 pages. And other people can just work on their comics for years on end, and it's super fine to just do the long epic. Hope that makes sense. It's not really a definitive answer, because you will never feel ready. But there's not a definitive number. But I always recommend starting with small comics if you've never made comics before. And I kind of did, for school papers, and so for some friends. I made a longer comic of 40 pages for a friend. That was about the longest that I've done. And that was a sketch comic in pencil. That was not even super refined at all. And then I just dove into first my longer comic that went nowhere, but that's because I still needed to figure out drawing a little bit better and storytelling. Yeah, but you will never feel ready, so be mindful of that. Don't wait for some kind of now I feel ready feeling, because that's probably not going to come until you start. Lucidberry Pro. So many people say to start small, but I have a hard time with this. Yeah, I know. I'm one of those people, but see, because some people have never made a comic before. And if you've never made a comic before, kind of don't overwhelm yourself. Start small and kind of figure out how you want to make comics, like very practically, how you're going to go about it. Muchiness, how do you get over struggling of drawing comic panels that are particularly difficult? Example, a pose or facial expression that you just get right. I don't think you ever get over struggling. Sorry, maybe it sounds a little pessimistic, but some panels are just really hard, and that doesn't go away because you keep challenging yourself constantly. You will always get better and then want to get better even more and then do more complex things. And that's going to be a struggle again. Embrace the struggle is what I would say. And, find a reference. If something is super hard, figure out a way you can make it easier by either shooting yourself from an angle, set your camera to selfie mode, and do the pose and shoot your own reference. Ask people, friends, to do poses for you. Facial expressions are sometimes, you can find them on in movies, of course, but also videos on YouTube sometimes. For example, I've seen artists recommend, like, if you need really scared faces, just look at videos from people who are walking through haunted houses and get scared. You get a genuine reaction. But basically, it's just keep sitting down until you have something that works. Yeah. I almost cried at a few comic panels in my comic. I'm not afraid to say that. I have a few, and especially the first panel, because I wanted to open my comic with a bang. It's not the most smart thing to do, but I wanted to open my comic with a bang. So I made an entire cityscape sitting on a mountain. I'm not good at drawing buildings at all. I'm not good at perspective. It was hard. And I think that panel alone took me weeks to make. And I literally would get up and move and literally go away from it because it was so uncomfortable and it was so messy. But embrace the messy struggle, and eventually it will work out. You're an artist. The solution is there. You will find it eventually. It might be a few days of frustration, but eventually you will get there. Just keep coming back at it. Take a little break. Keep coming back to it, and you will get it. How do you stay motivated after your first few rings of pages? Is it to visualize all the fun things you get to explore down the line, or thumbnailing ahead of time? Oh yeah, keep in mind your favorite scenes that are coming up, definitely. So, do side sketches on the side of those scenes, just for fun, just for yourself. Make the comic process as fun as possible for yourself. So have a nice environment, drink your favorite tea, put on your favorite music, make sure you're comfortable. Like I go to cafes. It's just, for me, it's just fun to sit in a cafe and work on stuff. Celebrate your wins. Yeah, those are my main tips, basically. I hope that's helpful. If you guys have any other things, it's nearly halfway there. Thumbnail all of it. I'm figuring I'll chip away at it until it's finished. That's the plan anyway. Yeah. I don't know how long your comic is. I personally only thumbnail 7 pages at once. That's my maximum of, like, I can work on 7 pages at the same time. I bet 7 pages and I thumbnail them, I sketch them, I ink them, I color them, and then it's done. I move to the next pages. So I'm not a person who goes thumbnailing the entire comic, because you also have like your favorite or least favorite parts of the comic process. And I cannot imagine having to like ink 50 pages in a row, because inking is just not that fun. But if I do like the thumbnailing, sketching, thumbnailing and sketching is my favorite part, especially thumbnailing. I love it so much. So constantly having to start over again and having to do my favorite stuff again also keeps me very motivated, because yay, I'm back to thumbnails again. So that's how I work. For some people who, like, if you make a comic that's like 5, 10, 30, I've seen some people do that with a comic that's 50 pages. They would just do all of the thumbnails, all of the drawings and stuff. It's not how I work, but my comic is hundreds of pages long. I'm not like it would take years for me to like get to the final product, to the final page, because I would have to thumbnail the entire comic, and then I'm a few months later and I want to redo the entire thumbnail because my skills got better and I actually got some new ideas again. So for me that doesn't work, but you kind of have to find your own process for that. Let's see, there's a lot of chat on YouTube. Miyoko Toby, bye. You're probably already gone as well. But yeah, have a good weekend. Once you started a zine, but I'm having a hard time completing it. I started the first 5 pages and I just stopped once I stopped momentum. When is it a good idea to just finish it or know when to drop it? How long is your zine? How long is your comic going to be? It's nearly halfway there. First 5 pages, nearly halfway there. So it's probably 10 pages. Yeah, I would finish it. Yeah. For 10 pages, I would probably finish it. I also don't know what you were going to do with it. If it's for a zine, then that might be fun to still finish it so you can turn something in. Lucid Berry, I used to make comics without thinking seriously about them. But when I started to actually think about the story I want to tell, the process became frustrating. Yeah. Also cry at my comic sketches. Oh. It will get better. I kind of recognize that because I used to make comics for fun too, and they were not professional. And I would just, draw the panels, just draw some panels that were super skewed. I would not pay attention to any of yeah, I wouldn't, I wouldn't make it super polished or anything. And then I was like, I'm gonna make a professional looking webcomic, and it was like, how am I even doing that? And then it became really hard. It was just before I got super art block back in 2000 and what was it? I don't even remember. When did I finish college? That sounds so old right now. It's getting a little late, so I'm kind of confused with the dates. Oh yeah, 2009. Yeah, because then you actually start thinking about the technical stuff, and yeah, storytelling is one of those things, and that's the part where you're actually like, am I going to actively study to get good at this, or do I just want to keep it a hobby and make fun comics seriously? You could do that as well. Put those online, if it's readable. But if you do want a certain look and you do want to get better at storytelling and making comics, then definitely recommend just diving into it and learning that stuff. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Like story, I always recommend 2 books, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder and Invisible Ink by Brian McDonald, just to start out so you understand story a little bit better and you kind of see an example story structure, and then you can kind of figure out your own methods, because there's so many story structures. So just start by doing that and just use a structure for story, because story, you can make it easier for yourself. If you do want the sunshine, if you do want a like laid out for you step by step how to make comics thing, I can definitely recommend my course, How to Start a Comic, which you can find at howtostartacomic.com. It is a self-paced course that you can use for any single comic story. And it goes very heavily into story and how story actually works and how you can create your story outline. So you can use that to eventually create your scenes and your pages and everything. But it takes you absolutely from blank page to finishing actual comic pages by the end of the course. So if that's something that you want to study and you want to get better at, then that's definitely something I recommend. Just go to howtostartacomic.com and check that out. Nefty said, I made 1 comic for grammar school for my art class, and I was going to start another comic but didn't like how I couldn't make the supernatural creatures die, so I changed it. Yeah, stories change. That's fine. Lucifery process. I've been really struggling with the writing and been really avoiding it. Yeah, definitely the cure is getting more knowledge about writing, I think. I enjoy the writing process and thinking of those characters and interactions as much as, yeah. When you know a little bit more about what you're doing and how to structure a story, it will definitely get more fun, because then it's more like a puzzle that you need to solve. Basically like thumbnailing almost. You know, there are so many visual cues and background details that I like in other comics, like reactions of background characters and the use of objects pulled from the background. I want to do that. Yeah. If you have a solid story and you start actually creating your comic, for me at least, I've noticed that that stuff comes up naturally and spontaneously too. When you're thumbnailing, you will just get ideas, because then that's the point where at least I start thinking about the artwork and the backgrounds and what's happening. And then sometimes when I'm drawing, you just think of a cute little visual gag that you can put in the background, and you can just do it. But for me, that only happens when my brain switches from story to actually how is it going to look, and how, how am I going to tell the story visually. And for me, that starts with outlining a scene and then thumbnailing it. Let's see, there's some stuff on Instagram. Nora says, your emails are awesome. Love the stuff you send. Oh, thank you so much. With the compliments. Thank you. Mika says, I've seen a few artists to work on their comic, and I thought it was a good way to gain experience. Do you know of any places artists post looking for assistance? Oh, there, I have seen a site, but I don't think I've saved it, so I'm absolutely not sure of the URL. I would ask this question in a comic group on Facebook or Reddit or something, because I do know that there is some places that are specifically like marketplaces for, writers and comic artists and everything, to find people to collaborate with. So you want to be an assistant to an artist? Yeah. Yeah, I just have to be honest. I don't know. So I would ask this question in places where a lot of comic artists hang out, and ask the question there. Sorry. Oh, we've been going for 1.5 hours. Are there any last questions that you guys want to ask? How have the live streams been? I hope they've been helpful. Lucy Bear says Facebook groups are good. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm in some as well. Wow, I'm in some as well. Yeah, there's a Making Comics Facebook group. Indie Comics Conspiracy. I don't know why they call it a conspiracy. Nothing weird going on there or anything. Yeah, those are the two I think that I'm most active in now. But there's a ton. Just Women Make Comics, I think, is one as well. There's a lot. So just search in the Facebook search bar. Lemur Cohort says, do you have any tips on what's important in the first scene of a longer comic? Hook them. Hook them with something super interesting, usually in action. Just drop the reader right into the action is usually what's recommended. Something that makes us connect with your main character. If your main character is in the first scene, something that tells us something about their character. What I love to do in these cases is also to study movies, see how they open, and study other comics. Obviously, how do they open? But usually, you would drop your reader right into an action, so you hook them. Naru and Martinez and Neftali say that the live stream was awesome. Okay, cool. So cool getting my questions answered. Oh, thank you guys. That's so good to hear. I have to go back to the beginning of your story, Lucyberry Pro. Martinez says, yeah, the live streams have been short but fun. Too short. Yeah, no problem at all. Like, I love talking to you guys. It always gives me a lot of energy. Like, you would drop a YouTube video and you do see the comments afterwards. Talking to you guys live, like, I love that stuff. Yeah, no problem at all. Ideally, I would eventually, if I'm like full-time comic teacher, I would love to do them like regularly. I don't think I missed any questions. I'm like scanning. Martinez, quick question. Can we know a little about you? Pets or favorite food? Unfortunately, I don't have pets. I live in a tiny apartment. And also, for some reason, my body decided to become allergic to most pets at 18 while I've been growing up with pets all my life, which is super frustrating. But my favorite pet is definitely cats. I love cats. Cats are the best. So if I wouldn't be allergic, I would probably have a cat. Yeah. Why do I feel I'm allergic to cats? I'm so sorry. She's got a shark. I do have a shark. It's Sharky. I'm not gonna lie. If you don't have a pet, because pets are also like soft and, you know, they give you that ounce of serotonin, then a plushie is actually a very, very good thing to have, because you can pet your plushie and he's so squishy. This is Sharky the Shag. This is a plushie from IKEA. Unfortunately, you cannot get them in the Netherlands anymore, but I think they are still there in USA. And a lot of IKEAs from Asian countries have been promoting the Blahai again, so I'm not sure why they're not here. But it's very soft. Very squishy. Like, there's a whole, like I mentioned at the start of the live stream, it's perfect hugging length. It's absolutely perfect for adults because he's so large. And there's like a whole Blahai, that's the name of this specific IKEA plushie, or Blåhaj is the actual name in Swedish. There's like a whole community of these on Instagram, which is super fun. Yeah, if you just search for Blahai on Instagram, you get like a lot of accounts, like people actually like having accounts in the name of their Blahai plushie, and they you know, have fun with each other, or they're eating, or they're going on trips. People actually bring these to trips. It's super fun. So nice shark emojis in the chat on YouTube. Yeah. So next best thing when you can't have a pet. Yeah, it's actually proven too that a lot of adults actually still have plushies, and they're actually proven to be, you know, beneficial to mental health, I guess. And also just, you know, just I think something soft is just good for you. You know, I think your brain just releases the happy hormones. So yeah, I even have a YouTube video about Sharky where I come up with the story for him, just to Explain story structure. That story isn't canon anymore, by the way. Sharky has his own backstory now, but yeah, he's a lot. So if you're on Instagram, he actually has 2 highlights. You can kind of follow the adventures of Sharky on Instagram. Sorry to hear your allergies to animals. Yeah. I was like, what is happening? I had like no allergies when I was a kid. Plushies are great to sleep on and that good for the old serotonin. Yes, definitely. Definitely. It's really like sometimes I'm like stressed, especially now with like my mental health being not in the best place. And I can just sometimes just hug him and just feel the stress going because it's just I don't know, it's just helping. Like scientifically, I think they just are great. And he has such a cute shark shape. Sharks look so cool. Like I think they're so well designed as animals. Like they have like these really beautiful tails, and they are kind of sleek for swimming. And sharks just look cool. Like so many sharks look so cool. So yeah, I used to have a shark plushie named Sharky too, though less soft and less cute. There's this amazing Instagram account, and I'm so bad at name remembering, guys. I'm so sorry, but they make non-cute plushies. Basically, they make a lot of marine animals, and they just make them a little bit more realistic. And apparently, there's a shark called Goblin Shark, and when it's living more in the deep sea, so it has kind of like a little bit of that deep sea fish kind of look. And when it opens its mouth, it literally goes all the way back almost, and the entirety of the teeth just come out of the mouth. They look really, really menacing, and they actually made a plushie of a goblin shark. Big nose shark. The more anatomically correct, yeah, yeah. At least Sharky does have the 5 gills, which is apparently something that most sharks have, and he's missing some fins because shark do have more kind of like fins over here. It's also kind of funny that he's called blowhide because apparently that means blue shark, but he's not a blue shark. He's a great white, which is kind of funny. But I guess because he's blue, they named him Blue Shark for some reason. Talk about sharks now. No, this is love the live stream. It's really great. Getting to interact. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and my favorite food is definitely all kinds of Indian food, but I'm not good with spice when it's super hot. So like the mild, the mild Indian curries are definitely my favorite. And also hot chocolate is definitely drink it all the time. Hot chocolate is like my thing. If you know me, then you know that I love hot chocolate. What's spoken in the Netherlands? Dutch, which is confusing, not to be confused with Danish or the German word for German, which is Deutsch. It's all very confusing, and a lot of people get like super confused. But the Netherlands, it's spoken Dutch. It's kind of similar to German. Like you would get the gist of it. Then in Belgium, you have Flemish, which is like a variety of like a Dutch. Like it's its own language, but we can understand each other very well. You want to know more short facts about me? Teach us a Dutch word. I can teach you the Dutch word for shark. It is high. Like Haai, high. High. Yeah, it's 2 A's, but it's funny because high is the German and Finnish word, and then the Swedish word is with a J at the end. I think. But it's funny because sometimes hi is a German word. Yeah. Hi. There's a lot of blowhigh sharks that are called Heinrich and stuff. It's so cute. Uh, yeah, in Dutch it's with an extra A. Hi. And it's funny because for a while everybody just said hi to each other, but then said hi to each other as well. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of similar. Sharky the hi. Any other fun facts? I don't know. What do you want to know? I live on the 13th floor, if that's a fun fact. Oh, I look at the west, so I always have really nice sunsets. Oh, he's invisible on Instagram. Atrocious. The 13th, yes. I have to be careful not to say 30th. It's 13th. Is a common to live in high rises. It is where I'm from. The apartment buildings are getting higher and higher. More common is like a maximum of, I think, 5 floors. Yeah, but there's more, and especially this part of the city is it's more so high up. It's actually almost halfway of my building. We have 22 floors. I do like the 13th because you can kind of still have a connection with downstairs. So when you just look down, you can kind of still see what's happening, and you can sometimes even still hear what people are saying and stuff. And if you're on the 22nd, I've been there a few times, and you kind of get the idea that you're looking at miniatures. And for some reason, I do like this because it's high enough that I'm not looking like I'm on the right side of the building. Like other people would actually look inside other houses on that side, but here I'm actually just looking at a park. And then there's some higher buildings, but they're far enough away that you're not looking into each other's room, which is really nice. But I like this height actually. There's not anything in front of me, very close, and then but not too high that you. I don't know. I like the kind of more like connection with the ground. What's your favorite color? That's always such a hard question because it depends on the shade. I'm very peculiar. Like there are shades of colors in every color that I don't like and that I do like. I do usually have an affinity for what would you call that? Kind of like a deep, dark, saturated pink. Almost going to purple, and then a little bit in between cyan and more green, a little bit more a greener version of cyan, and like some warm yellows is what I really like. That's not one color, I apologize. Do you ever take the staircase? Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I do take it down. Sometimes more often when I go up, I can make it to about the 7th floor, and then I'm like, nope, take the elevator. Is there anything you wish your area had more of, like a cuisine or different conveniences? Oh, you mean like like my country, or actually like here in my neighborhood? Because more like a bakery or something, that would be really nice. Or one of those stores where we have 2 kinds of stores that are more like convenience stores, I guess, that have just like stuff that you would sometimes need. Those are not too close. I can bike somewhere, but it's like a big shopping center, and I don't like going in there. Something where you can just get some garbage bags or something. that kind of stuff. Anyway, we want to travel to but haven't before. Canada. I actually flew over the Rocky Mountains when I went to the US at one point, and the sun was coming up and it was majestic, and I was glued to the window. But because it was like sunrise, like I went back to morning again. So I wasn't tired at all. But there were people who were probably really wanted to get into the sleeping schedule. So they were like really trying to get some sleep. And then the sun was shining into the plane. So people were actually complaining for me. Close the windows. I was like, no, we don't have any mountains in the Netherlands. And it's so cool. So basically anywhere with mountains, but like the Rocky Mountains or something Canada-ish would be really great. Wait, can you take those cool train cars to other countries neighboring you? I don't know what you mean with train cars, but there's trains going to other countries. You can actually get on a train. Can you get on a train here, or do you need to go to Amsterdam first? You can be in Paris in 2 hours from here. There aren't bakeries in your area. No, I have to bike for 10 minutes, which isn't very far, but like I have this romantic idea of just going downstairs and get like a croissant or a baguette. Like, I don't know. You've never been to this part of the world. Cool. Where are you from? You don't necessarily have to name like a very specific place if you don't want to. This is the internet, but who wouldn't love living above a bakery? Exactly. Like when where I was living with my parents when I was young, there was actually like a factory, like a factory that made like factory bread. I don't know what to call that. Like the bread that you have in supermarkets and stuff. And it just smelled so good. Like multiple times a week, you would just smell the bread like everywhere it was like a little village. And it was so good. That smells really great. California. I've been to California. It's the only place I've been to in the US. I went to LA twice to go to a conference. Actually, not been outside of LA, so I haven't seen much just from the plane. Like we flew over Nevada at one point, and the other time we came up from the east more, I think. LA was crazy. I've never seen a city that big. Like here, everything is tiny. In the Netherlands, like even Amsterdam and Rotterdam are like super, super tiny. Something like London is much, much bigger. Like we are not a very large country. We don't have very large cities. But like I was sitting in the plane, I was looking down at LA, and everywhere I looked up until the horizon, the city just stretched. I was like, what is this, a country? You know, it was crazy. Lucid Berry Pro is from Florida. That would be a cool place to go too. USA represent. Naru on Instagram is from Virginia. Is that more in the middle? My geography of the US is really bad. I'm sorry. Virginia. It's so like the US is so gigantic, like as a country, like you cannot even imagine. It's so funny that when there was it's the East Coast. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Muchness is okay. Our geography is bad in general. Well, I guess it depends on where you live. Like, of course, your geography of the US would be fine, just as my geography of Europe is much better. Yeah. But like, I think you would even have like super cultural differences between states, right? No, my geography is bad, period. Yeah, it's gotten better because I travel so much for my work. So I get into a lot of cities. So my geography of kind of like the middle of the Netherlands is fine now. But yeah, I don't even know every single country in Europe. Like I would actually have to guess at one point. Like I know the countries' names, but I sometimes don't know which one is where. Like I do know the majority even of like the West Europe because that's where my country is, and then Southern Europe. But then, yeah, some countries I would probably struggle with as well. Definitely lots of cultural differences between states. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're more prominent. Like we have different areas in the Netherlands as well, but it's you still would have like, but that's probably for the US as well. You would still have like that overall kind of like Dutch mentality. But I can imagine in the US because it's so stretched out, like you would, if you don't necessarily travel that much, you would not even meet each other. You wouldn't even meet each other maybe if you're on the East Coast and then meet people from the West Coast, unless you actually have, you travel there, you go on a holiday there or something. Martinez asks, if you went to Paris, would you speak English there? It's funny that you mentioned Paris because the French. I would speak English. I actually could speak French a little bit because in the Netherlands, it's very common to actually study languages in high school. So I've had English, German, and French in school. And yeah, so I could speak a little bit of French. So you would definitely, if you know French, you should definitely use it there. The French in general are known to be a little bit, but that's probably also very much a stereotype. In Paris, people would probably speak English to you much faster. If you are in different places in France, I think you would actually find places where people either didn't speak English or they wouldn't want to speak English. The French in other countries around them actually have like a reputation for being really particular. Of like, you come here, so you need to speak French to us. But in Paris, probably most people will speak English, and my French is much worse since I never used it much. So and it's years ago. It was in high school, when you get it a few years. So you get to the basics, but you don't speak it fluently or anything. And I dropped it at one point. I dropped it for German, so my German was a little bit better. My German is also not too good. So yeah. Basically English is all that's left, and the reason I speak it so well is because of the internet, and also we have a lot of programs, of course, in English as well, and we do the subtitle thing. Like in a lot of countries in Europe, they will actually dub English things. They will even, like, if somebody is being interviewed on the news, they would even dub over that person. They would not subtitle it. But in the Netherlands, we subtitle everything. So in the Netherlands, people speak English pretty well. Also, not just in Amsterdam, but like everywhere, especially the younger generations. Too many people in the Netherlands speak English typically. Yeah, they do. Yeah. I've heard about the French stereotype. Yeah, I'm actually not sure, even though I've been to, like, I was on a holiday in a small place in France at one point, and people got really confused when you tried to speak English. So yeah, it really depends on the country, and then also where in the country you are, usually, if they speak English. But a lot of countries in Europe, people speak English pretty well. Sometimes you don't even have to travel outside the state. Oh, for cultural differences or for holidays? Or Martinez worked in a bakery, but it was a big company bakery, and every day I'd come out smelling like sugar. What do I like about the Netherlands? Um, so bad that I have to think about that. There's a lot that I like about the Netherlands. There's also a lot that I don't like about the Netherlands, but I think that's the same for everyone, right? Um, well, I guess I am kind of proud of, like, we have this whole thing with water because we are very flat as a country and very low as a country as well. So a very large part of the Netherlands is actually below sea level, and that means that we have a lot of water problems. So we gotten really good at keeping the water out. We actually have a problem right now where it's like there's like a super drought because of like global warming, and we've having heat waves after heat waves. So we actually are like, maybe we became a little too good at keeping the water out, but we would still occasionally have like water issues when it's raining very, very heavily. And we even had a super big disaster in the 50s where like a large part of one province actually flooded and hundreds and hundreds of people died. And it was in the middle of the night, and it was like a storm, and it was horrible. And after that, we made really, really good work of strengthening our dikes, because we have a lot of dikes. And like actually like waterworks, you can actually study that. What would be the English word for that? You can actually just study the science of managing water. It's like water management education, basically. Water engineering. We also, every time there's like a disaster somewhere else in the world, we just go, hello, if you want some expertise, we can help. That's kind of like a cool fact. It's not maybe something that I like about the Netherlands per se. I guess I sometimes like that you kind of, it's also annoying sometimes, but people in the Netherlands are very direct. And sometimes that's just nice because people just say what they want or say what they, what they mean, and you don't have to beat around the bush or, yeah, it can be annoying sometimes too, though. Because Dutch people are very proud about that as well. So they're a little inflexible about that sometimes. And they can come across as rude to people from abroad. Limmer says the cheese. Yes, we do have very good cheese. And no, it's not pronounced Gouda, it's pronounced Ga. That comes from the Netherlands. We also have really good stroopwafels, which are sort of waffle with a sort of caramelly thing. They're very thin waffles. They're really good. Yeah, the water stuff is more something that I'm probably proud of, because the Netherlands is not super special. Like, well, I guess the nature is special for people who are not used to it, because we do have parts of the Netherlands that used to be sea, and then we turn it into land. And it has a name, but I'm not sure what the English name for that is. It's actually a province where I partly grew up, and that's like just flat land. It's literally nothing. You just see the horizon, and they have a few windmills and a few trees, and that's it. And people are like, when they're not used to it, or they come from a country that has a lot of mountains, it's like, what? There's so much sky. Where is all the sky coming from? Yeah, so that's kind of cool, I guess. But it's kind of boring as well. Like, I love mountains personally and waterfalls. Like, first time I saw mountains, I was like, I was 16 when I saw my first mountain. Yeah. And then waterfalls and stuff. Like, water doesn't stream very often because we are like the end of the water circle. Like, a lot of streams from especially Germany and stuff, they all end up here, and then they flow through us, and then they go to the sea. But we don't have any like water that actually like flows really, really well, where you can actually see the currents. It's just a lot of still water. We do have a lot of water, though, a lot of little canals. We have a lot of words for different kinds of waters. Oh, you have water problems in California, so yeah. It's drought here always. Yeah, and all those fires that you always hear about as well, right? It's a huge problem as well right now in those places in the world where it's super dry. What would I recommend if someone traveled to the Netherlands? Kind of depends what you would want to see. If it's cities, everybody always goes to Amsterdam. Amsterdam is nice, but it's also incredibly crowded. It's so touristy. It does have the nice like houses around the canals, but then you can go to Utrecht as well. It has that too. If you want to see more like the super flat nature, you would actually have to go more to the north. There's a province called Flevoland, which is the part that used to be sea. And then you can also go to the north of the Netherlands, to a province called Friesland. And they have like nice meadows, also super flat, like nice meadows with a lot of cows and stuff like that. If you like amusement parks, we have a really good one. That's basically Disneyland, but with fairy tales. They were actually the first Disneyland and that amusement park were actually created around the same time. It's so well designed. It's like everything around you, everything looks like a fairy tale and like fantasy, and it's they have really cool rides that all have a story. It's called the Efteling, and that is yeah. If you like amusement parks, that's definitely something that I would send you to. We have a lot of museums. We have a lot of old masters that are very well known: Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Vermeer. So many. So we have a huge museum in Amsterdam. We have the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam as well. The Hague has a lot of museums as well. Yeah, that's kind of the stuff. Efteling, you know it? Oh, you work in the theme park industry. That's awesome. It sounds so cool. Lemur, you are from Germany. Yeah, I already thought so. Because you mentioned the high. Yeah, it's also very easy to go to other countries in Europe. It's getting so dark, by the way. Yeah, you can get to a lot of countries actually just by train. Yeah, but it's like I think Europe is more like the US in the sense that that's how close the countries are to each other. In terms of like what states are with you, that's countries in Europe. I do feel like a lot of people from the US, for example, they come to Europe and then they want to do like 5 countries in 2 weeks. And I'm like, just pick 2 maybe at the most. Get home exhausted, I can imagine, because it's a very the cultures are super different country to country. And that's sometimes I had a friend come over and it surprised him so much because he was like, you're so close to each other. And then you all have the euro. We don't all have the euro, but a lot of countries in Europe have the same currency. So people get super confused sometimes of like, why do these countries differ so much? And it's like, yeah, but they're actually different countries, very different countries. And then you will have a little bit of overlap sometimes, because I do think that, for example, the Netherlands, Belgium, and even Germany have some cultural, like I follow some Germans, for example, on Instagram, and I'm like, oh yeah, we do that too. We have that too. But then the German culture can be very different from Dutch culture as well. So, yeah, definitely. I always wanted to go to the Efteling in Europa. But I just don't know how much about the continent, but I'd love to see the countries and go through them by train. It does sound timing, but time is money. May as well get a sneak peek. Yeah. Yeah. It's just that it's so common for us. Like we go on a holiday and we pick one country, but of course it's much easier for us to get anywhere. So one holiday you just go to France, and another holiday you go to Spain. And some people go to the same country literally all the time. So that happens too. But you would not really find people here who do multiple countries. Yeah, in one holiday. But I guess if you come from so far and and a plane ticket is very expensive, then yeah, I can see that. I was like, oh, you would probably just get some touristy highlights and that's it. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. Maybe there's like organized what do you call that? Oh no, the spam is back. Go away. I don't like. Um don't spam my stream. Punk Karma Geek. I'm Mexican, so when I travel to Europe, I try to visit as many countries as possible because of how expensive it is. Right, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. It just sounds so tiring. But I guess like from very large countries, it would also feel maybe more like you're used to traveling long distances anyway. Maybe. Sam, take us to dinner first. Oh yeah. So annoying. Every single time I upload a video, like the first few comments, I'm like, oh, I got a comment. And then it's like, nope, it's just spam. It's expensive, so it's like trying to get the most bang of your buck. Yeah. There's also something to be said, I guess, for just really soaking in just one particular country. I'm gonna put on some lights, guys. This is getting ridiculous. Light. Yeah. Yeah, but I get it. Like, the only thing I visited in the US is LA, and that feels so weird because it's like such a huge country, and I only saw a little part of LA. I did went to Disneyland the second time, or Disney World. No, Disneyland. The Disney thing in LA. But that was like the farthest away from the area of LA that we were that I went. 2 hours. I think we're gonna stop the stream soon, guys. I feel like my voice is disappearing again. Our flights to Asia are cheap. I've been there more often since I have family there, but it's still dang expensive. I don't know if the flights are cheap. I've actually never been to Asia, even though I've been to Israel. That's in Asia, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Middle East. The flight was like moderate, I think. But I think if you actually go really far into Asia, like more to the east side, yeah, that must be expensive. I don't know, never been. Even though a lot of people go to places like Thailand and yeah, they usually say like you pay the most for the plane ticket, and then because of the currency difference, the holiday itself will become very cheap. That's why a lot of people go there. Disneyland is one of those touristy musts, but I think Efteling blows that out of the water. It had some cool rides. It was just really busy, so we couldn't do much. and Space Mountain was out halfway through the queue. They announced that it was closing. Yeah, but it has a lot of similarities in that in Disneyland everything is like super designed. It's like everything is Disney, and in the Efteling that's kind of the same. It's just a very different atmosphere because it's like based on also on the art of a very specific Dutch illustrator. Anton Pieck is a very specific kind of fairy tale illustration style. That's the park is based on. But Efteling, I'm sorry to say for any Americans here, but I do think it actually at least holds up to Disney. Yeah, I do think so. Might be a little bit biased. Also, I only went to the Efteling when I was an adult already, because it's in the south, more in this, not super in the south, but it's more like far south, and I grew up far north. So so we never went there. There was like another amusement park that we would go to, but never went to the Efteling actually until I was like in my 20s. And I was already like super into art, so I just walked around there like, I'm so inspired, I want to draw everything. And you know, you can just randomly run into like a lady that has like a whole row of geese behind her. Literally. At one point I was like, there's a lady with geese. She's just walking here. You know, and there will be music bands sometimes just suddenly showing up. And then the rides, there's some really, really cool rides. Like a lot of rides where you just look at things, and then they have some cool roller coasters as well. My favorite is the Flying Dutchman, which simulates you actually being on sea for a little bit. Yeah, it was real geese. Yeah. Yeah, it was just trained geese for some reason. And she was like a fairy tale lady with a bunch of geese following her around. Yeah. Yeah, and then oh yeah, the Flying Dutchman, and then you're at sea, so it's dark and it's all inside. Also, the waiting line is amazing. You go through all these taverns, basically, and like a smuggling tunnel at one point, and then you get in a little harbor, and it's all inside. And then you're at sea, and then it's like stormy, so you get water splashing your face, and then eventually you just run into the Flying Dutchman, and then it turns into a roller coaster. It's really cool. I actually spoiled the thing a little bit now. I'm sorry if you ever get there. I'm sorry, just forget this. Yeah. But thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking about random stuff in the end. Yeah. Yeah, you too have a good night, muchness. Thank you for joining, I think, all 3 live streams. Lemur says, good night to all. Thanks for your time. Oh, no problem. It was fun. Oh, it was fun for you guys as well. And helpful, of course. Keep in touch. Pencils and Stories almost everywhere except on Twitter. There are pencils_stories. And yeah, you can also join my email list if you want to, pencilsandstories.com/extra. Check out the description on YouTube for the Skillshare class if that's something you're interested in, or if you want to do my larger course, you can always DM me on social media as well. If you have any questions, you can always DM me. Lemur says bye, Shaki. Shaki, have fun hanging out with you guys. Yes, indeed. He's like, follow us on Instagram because he's there most of the time. Bye, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have some time today, hopefully you can make some comics. If you run into any problems, just feel free to DM me. Yeah. And yeah, good day to the Americans. Have a good day. Have a good evening if you're from Europe, and everything in between or after. Have a good night if you're more to the east. Yeah. And Naru too. Have a great night. This is fun. Oh, good to hear. Thank you so much for watching us all on Instagram. And hasta luego. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Punk Karma Geek. Yes. That's good night, right? Or am I way off now? I think so. in some high schools you can actually study Spanish, but not the high school where I grew up in, unfortunately. I think it is, but anyway, guys, I'm gonna close the streams and have a good day. That was Instagram. Bye, everyone.